I'd like to call the board meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome and thank you for coming, everyone. Roll call, Mr. Lundberg?
Hullum.
Yes.
Odie.
Yes.
Talcott.
Yes.
Saxer.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
All right, with that, if there are no changes that need to be made to the agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve that as presented, please.
So moved. Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Sorry, Ellie. Motion passes. No conflict of interest disclosure or waiver requests tonight. That takes us to our approval of the minutes. We have regular meeting minutes from August 9th and August 23rd and special meeting minutes from August 16th. Is there a motion to approve those as presented?
So moved. Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Community input, I do not see any tonight. That takes us to the financial items, bills and claims. Mr. Lundberg.
Okay, as I said last time, we had 1,000 invoices last time, 850 invoices this month, so it continues to be quite busy processing all of this stuff. Any questions the board has? I had a few items noted. Page 6, Teach Well Solutions, quarterly payment of just under $186,000 for the various programs, services that we purchase from them. Page 11, McGraw-Hill, $552,000. Vast majority of that is English language arts adoption. Page 12, Miracle Recreation, $324,465, the new school playground. Page 13, we purchased 2 new buses, $239,410, $120,000 each. Page 14, Pesca Construction, $372,811. That pretty much takes us down to just our retainage of $150,000 that's remaining on that contract. Total bills of $2,796,063. $2,500 of advance payments breakdown is listed for you, and then $32,716 of pay vouchers, $119,708 of food service bills.
There are no further questions for Mr.
Paul, I've got one question.
Yep.
The Augustana tuition, what's that eartagged for?
They run a program for special needs children that it's kind of a qualifying program, and we had 2 kids in that program here at Brandon Valley.
If no further questions, I entertain a motion to approve the bills and claims as presented tonight.
So move.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Financial report, Mr. Lundberg.
Okay, real quick, the cash report for the month of August had $19,073,000, $2,777,000 of receipts, and $4,767,000 of disbursements, leaving $17,083,000 at the end of August. $9 million was in the general fund, $4.6 million in the capital outlay fund, $1.6 million in the special education fund, $26,000 in the enterprise fund, and $1.8 million in the capital projects fund. The $2,777,000 is itemized on the next page. Short investment report of $1,363,000. Payroll for the month of August was $1,740,000. Lastly, we had a financial statement for the trust and agency account, $173,341. And then the capital project fund, which, as I said earlier, is coming near to completion. I did have one thing noted there, as you can see on the change orders, we had a budget of $300,000, I think we have $67,000 of actual change orders. It's 1/2 of 1%. That's been a trend that we've always had with, that's why we appreciate Architecture Incorporated so much, that the work that they do, that's a very indicative of a good project when you have less than 1/2 of 1% change orders. So I just wanted to point that out. Any questions? That's all I had.
I've got another one, Paul.
Yes, sir.
On your actuals and projections on expenditures for the school, everything's pretty close except for furniture and fixtures and equipment. Do you have roughly about $1 million coming in yet as far as expenses?
There's quite a bit that we have not paid for. That actually, the vast majority has not yet been billed. All the classroom furniture, that was probably $400,000 there. And we got quite a bit of other things there.
Okay. But like the playground equipment that we approved, that's not plugged into the actual...
No, you just paid for that tonight, so that'll be plugged in next month. I think projection-wise, it'll probably end up $400,000 under budget or so, the total project.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the financial report tonight? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve it as presented, please.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That takes us to our general business items. First item we have is administration reports. Administrative Center Superintendent Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few items to update the board on here this evening. First and foremost, our COVID-19 information website continues to be our centralized communication hub as we continue to manage and navigate COVID-19. And after having had conversation with my student health services folks today, working through some issues, the message continues to be and needs to be, if folks are sick, stay home. I mean, that is literally the most important thing that folks realize. If you are sick, stay home. In terms of bus ridership, we had approximately 1,800 on-time purchases or ridership notifications, and then we have approximately 100 late purchases or ridership notifications. So when we look at the total percentages in terms of folks that met that deadline and adhered to our timeline, about 95% of our folks were able to do that. So that was greatly appreciated for all those folks that met that deadline and allowed us to successfully get our kids routed on buses. I would tell you that the date that we established for ridership for those folks that were late was October 4th, but I know that our transportation department is working diligently in attempting to get them on as soon as possible, but that is the date that we established prior to. So just note that we're working through that process. Fall enrollment, as I indicated at our last meeting, this number is tentative and subject to change, and you would note that it did change from our last meeting. At this time, we're up 194 students. So at our last meeting, we were up about 215 students. So over the course of about 3 weeks, we saw some folks exit out or go to different districts, and we haven't seen the additional number of students in terms of the in and out. So we're at about 200 students, 200 additional students. I would note our estimated enrollment increase for the year was 208. As I twisted Mr. Lundberg's arm and thought we would get a few more, it looks as though I'm going to be the one buying the steak dinner in terms of student enrollment projections. So looking at about 200 new students as outlined there. The one item I did want to note, we have about 67 students in our Distance Learning Academy, and that is broken down with 21 or 2 in the elementary, and then a handful in the intermediate school, handful in the middle school, and then another 30 or so in the high school. So just an item I wanted to note as that had been asked previously. Gifted Education Programming Work Group. I would note we have two different topics that will receive some attention here over the course of over the fall, and that is Gifted Education Programming, grades 3 through 8, as well as 4th grade orchestra programming. The thing that I just want to note is that both of those programs were put on pause 2 years ago when we worked through COVID-19, and now we're in a situation where it is natural for us to take a look at those educational programs and determine our approach and route forward. I would tell you that each one of those programs is unique. There are some complicated factors with staffing, with facility availability, as well as scheduling in those respective programs. So we're going to have a large work group work through a process and ultimately work to bring forward programmatic recommendations for each of those respective items. Board members, 2 board members will be included in those respective work groups as outlined in your board committee calendar that I provided for this respective meeting. Calendar items, would just want to note our parent-teacher conferences will be occurring here in the end of September. September 27th, the intermediate school and middle school will host parent-teacher conferences. And on the 28th, our elementary and high school buildings will host parent-teacher conferences. Certainly relevant to note that our building level administrators will be communicating with our families as we will provide multiple platforms for participation in conferences, both an in-person option as well as a virtual option. This hybrid approach is something that we're working through, so appreciate everyone's patience and understanding as we navigate that hybrid approach. But parents will be receiving communications from our building level administrators regarding conferences here in the very near future. And then no school on the 1st, it's a comp day. On October 11th, we have no school, it's a staff in-service day, and there is no school on November 11th for Veterans Day. And again, we continue to talk about the high school addition. The priorities remain the same: general classrooms, ground floor special education space, and science classrooms. We want to minimize land usage and upgrade the east facility face while minimizing an impact to parking. So again, preliminary image of where that addition will be here on the east side and the northeast corner of our current high school. And then the timeline remains intact. We are working through the planning process, and our Buildings and Grounds Committee here will be informed of upcoming meetings when we work with that group prior to bidding the project here this winter. Construction will occur all of next school year, and then will be open in the fall of 2023 for the 23-24 school year. With that, would certainly entertain any questions you have. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Larson. Mr. Lundberg, anything additional? Thank you very much. High school, Mr. Schluckaway? Mrs. Moore, Mr. Paula? Nope, everybody's busy. Middle school, Mr. Thorson? Okay. Intermediate school, Mr. Skipstead, Mr. Pearson? Mrs. Otime, anything for special ed?
There we go. Okay. I just want to say that we do have some openings for educational assistants, so community members who may be watching this, we would encourage you to join our district. We are also short on subs. I know other districts in the area throughout the state are going through that too, but Brandon is a wonderful place to work, so those of you out there, I'm looking at the TV here. Okay, that's it.
You can't, I can't.
Thank you. Mrs. Hofkamp, anything tonight? Mrs. Nelson? Mr. Henschel? Mr. Farthing? Okay. Board policy, and we don't have any tonight. All right. That takes us to our general business. The first one, Brandon Valley School District Pandemic Response Plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we had 2 updates to our pandemic response plan effective September 7th. So we had 2 weeks of school, 2 short weeks of school, for lack of a better phrase. Began school on August 25th had 3 days of school, and then that next week worked through our second week of school. About midweek through that second week, engaged in conversation with Student Health Services as well as my executive cabinet in terms of concerns and/or issues that they had as we navigate the situation, the current situation. And the biggest item, the biggest change surrounded our close contact protocol. So long story short, previously we were doing nothing with close contacts. So close contacts were able to come to school, and there was no strategic mitigation in place at all for close contacts. That was a concern that staff brought forward administratively. Like I said, I met with my executive team and spoke about the challenge of close contacts and that issue. And the long story short, as we worked through that process, we thought, number one, the most important thing was we needed to keep kids in school. That was our primary goal and focus. And then in addition to that, we wanted to strategically mitigate our greatest area of potential risk in terms of spread. And what we landed on were close contacts may continue to attend school, but they are required to pre-screen for symptoms, remain asymptomatic, and they're required to wear a cloth face covering or mask for 14 days from the date of exposure. So the South Dakota Department of Health, if they identify you as a close contact, they have a whole bunch of things. Are you vaccinated or not vaccinated? That determines whether or not you're even allowed out of quarantine or not. They have multiple day. They have the 5-day. You can test after day 5, come back after day 8, or come back after day 10 with no symptoms but required to mask. Day 14. Anyway, very complicated and very difficult to communicate. So where we landed was close contacts, regardless if identified by the Department of Health or if identified by Student Health Services or administration, are allowed to continue coming to school, but required to pre-screen for symptoms, remain asymptomatic, and required to wear a cloth face mask due to exposure. So when we made that pivot and/or move, we were also able to change our positive case notification communication as previously presented. We weren't going to communicate positive cases because we didn't have close contacts, and that would have resulted in people saying, well, where was the case? Was my kid a close contact? And there being a lot of questions. Now that we're contact tracing, we have the ability to communicate the positive case to the respective buildings. I would note our high school and our middle school specifically are working on a positive case notification approach that is not an individualized email, but rather located on their website, so the people that want to know can go look, and the people that would rather not get that email don't get that email. So just know that we're continually evaluating our practices and our methods of communication to meet the needs of our people, and I imagine that we'll have that ironed out here in the very near future. So we want to try and meet the needs of those that really want to know, and also those that say, don't send me an email. So that was the second change. With that, Madam Chair, I would note that the change on September 7th was an executive decision that was made by myself after consultation with Student Health Services and my administrative team. Certainly would recommend your approval here this evening. Would certainly entertain any questions you have as well.
Any questions for Superintendent Larson on the change? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the Brandon Valley School District Pandemic Response Plan as updated.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Items 2 through 4, I would entertain a motion to approve those as presented, please.
So moved. Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Under personnel, I would entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 18.
So move.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Items 19 through 26 are information only. Communication, central office, there's building permit applications there for your review if you would like to look at those. And that takes us to our board reports. Does anyone have a formal board report that they would like to share tonight?
Madam Chair, I would just note, I did provide each board member with an extensive list of the upcoming board committee dates, so they can get those on their calendars. A lot of times those are large groups, so I apologize if every date doesn't work for every person, but those are listed there for your calendar.
Thank you. It's probably still too soon in the year to have a board report, so. All right, hearing none, it looks like that takes us to the end of our scheduled agenda. I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved. Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for coming.